I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Donald Trump's out there making more dangerous and disqualifying statements on his social media platform as the House Ways and Means Committee will be voting in private on whether to release Donald Trump's tax returns for a period of 6 years, and as the January 6th committee voted to refer Donald Trump on 3 separate felony counts to the Department of Justice for criminal charges. Let's review Donald Trump's dangerous and disqualifying statements of the day. Donald Trump started off by writing, "All of these so-called experts who think that they know so much about my very successful private company actually know almost nothing. It is a great company," all in caps, "with lots of cash, some of the greatest assets anywhere in the world, and very little debt. Also strong on deductions and depreciation. You will be seeing these numbers soon, but not all from my tax returns, which show relatively little. Everyone," and that's all in caps, "will be impressed, but the fake news media will not be happy. So against their narrative." So since 2018, 2019, when the Congress shifted powers to the Democrats in the House of Representatives, you've been filing litigation to stop the Democrats from getting your tax returns. You've said you were going to turn over your tax returns since 2015, but lied incessantly about that. When you say that strong on deductions because the deductions you were taking likely seem very improper and probably unlawful. No, actually unlawful. Well, how do I know that? Well, that was what the Trump organization was charged with in a criminal case, unlawful deductions. And a jury found your company guilty on 17 felony counts of breaking the law, specifically as it comes to what you call strong deductions. And so a jury got to see those numbers, and the jury convicted your company on 17 felony counts. So if by you mean a very successful private company is a company convicted on 17 felony counts by a jury, I guess that's also how you consider to be a successful presidency, one that is riddled with lies and embarrassment to our nation, as well as insurrection. And then when you say that everyone will be impressed with these other numbers you'll be seeing soon, but not from the tax returns, like what are you even referring to there? Just more lies on top of lies, all packed in one gaslighting of a statement. Then Donald Trump's next statement is, "The real criminals are the people who are destroying our once great country." I think you are referring to yourself here. You are the real criminal. You are someone who absolutely wants to destroy our country. In fact, when your communications director, Hope Hicks, testified before the January 6th committee, and we saw her video footage today, and she was asked about efforts to try to encourage you to make sure that people would act peacefully, you refuse because you wanted people to act dangerously and violently. Your next statement, "Election interference by the FBI and Twitter was massive and determinative." Quote, "How sad." I go back to this over and over again. One, this is all a lie. This is all gaslighting. But number two, the FBI director, who you now claim is a Democrat, Christopher Wray, was somebody who you appointed. And when you appointed the FBI director, Christopher Wray, you talked about his impressive credentials. This was the person you picked to run the FBI. Bill Barr was your attorney general. You picked Bill Barr to run the Department of Justice. Bill Barr covered up a number of your crimes for you and did a ton of dirty work for you, and I think acted appallingly for our democracy. But now you claim, because they don't want to support your ridiculous and dangerous conspiracy theories, that Republican Christopher Wray and like ultra Republican Bill Barr work for the Democrats and that they are rhinos. They are Republican in name only. Same thing. Anybody who worked for you at the White House, and by the way, one of the most incredible things, if you haven't seen it out there, folks, from the January 6th committee report that I would tell you all to read. Go to page 101 to like 104 of the executive summary. They list all of the witnesses that have been called by the January 6th committee, with one of the important points that they're making was that mostly all of the witnesses were Republicans. And they go through this list here. I'll pull it up right now for all of you so you can see it. Page 101 to 104. And they have the list of Republicans. They go, in its 10 hearings or business meetings, the select committee called live testimony or played video for several dozen witnesses, the vast majority of whom were Republicans. A full list is set forth below. And the list literally includes dozens of Republicans who worked for you, who said that you are a criminal, who said that you acted unlawfully, who said you violated your oath. These weren't Democrats. There's one Democrat who testified before the January 6th committee, and everybody else was Republicans. And so I always think that that bears repeating over and over again right there whenever you try to gaslight with all of this disinformation. This video is brought to you by Masterworks, and congratulations to some of you who may have gotten a return when they recently sold a painting for a 13.9% net return. See, Masterworks is a company with a pretty cool concept. Masterworks allows you to invest in and own fractional shares of some of the most rare and exclusive artwork. The Masterworks research team uses proprietary data to determine which artist markets have the most momentum, and then their acquisition team locates what they believe is a good piece at a fair price, and they purchase the work. They then file an offering circular with the Securities Exchange Commission, allowing you to invest. And then Masterworks usually holds the artwork for 3 to 10 years. Then they sell the painting, and if the investment is successful, the investors receive their money back, plus their pro rata share of profits after the fees to Masterworks are paid. We're talking about works by Banksy and Picasso. By signing up with Masterworks and investing in paintings by these artists, you will become a fractional share owner of these historic paintings. Here is some more good news about Masterworks. In Masterworks' last 3 sales, they've delivered net returns of 17.8%, 21.5%, and 33.1% to their investors. So their investors got their money back plus a handsome profit. That doesn't mean future results will always be this way, but in my mind, if you have the ability to do this, and again, only if you have the ability, you get to own a part of a legendary piece of artwork, and there's always that potential that you can make a profit. Nearly 600,000 people have signed up so far, and to keep up with the demand, Masterworks is launching new paintings on a weekly basis. New offerings have sold out within minutes, but you can gain priority access to new offerings when you sign up at the link in the description. Net return refers to the annualized internal rate of return, net of all fees and costs, calculated from the offering closing date to the date of sale is consummated. IRR may not be indicative of Masterworks paintings not yet sold, and past performance is not indicative of future results. See important Reg A disclosures at masterworks.com/CD. Okay, then you do what you normally do where you repost these statements from people. And this is where I think MAGA is just so cowardly. This person, Kathy, who you repost, Kathy goes, on January 6th, Trump said, go home. But this tweet was deleted by Twitter. And then you respond to that, thank you, Kathy, because we're supposed to believe, even though what you actually tweeted were people to attack Vice President Pence at the time. And what you also tweeted was how wild the rally was going to be. You know, everybody needs to show up and take their country back, and that you refused to take any action. That after all of this was done, after you encouraged and directed the riot, that you told people that you love them, you're all wonderful people, you're all beautiful people. Now it's time for you to go home. You did a great job. And you're saying Twitter didn't take that. Twitter didn't take that. Twitter took you off of their platform because you inspired, encouraged, and directed an insurrection. There are federal judges who have said that the crime fraud exception applies because you engaged in criminal conduct. On both coasts, you have judges who say that your conduct violated your oath. Federal judges on both coasts. And so here you are, again, gaslighting. And again, what the gaslighting bothers me so much, Because one of the other characteristics of MAGA is how cowardly they are. How freaking cowardly they are that you then got to go back and like just gaslight and claim that you weren't for it. And say, I never said that. I never did that. What are you talking about? It was Antifa. It was this. It was that. It was you. Stop the freaking gaslighting. And here you post this Fox echo chamber news article where you talk about how the Twitter files, part 7, again, your FBI. You're claiming Christopher Wray is a Democrat, not a Democrat right now. Because Twitter, a private company engaged in moderation policies, because the FBI would reach out to Twitter and share information about potential domestic terrorist threats. And sometimes Twitter would take the advice, sometimes Twitter wouldn't take the advice. You were the president at the time. You were the president at this time. It was your FBI leader. You were the government at that time. But now you claim, oh, the FBI is all the Democrats. I mean, it's utterly absurd. Childish would be putting it so lightly because it would be offensive to children. This is dangerous, dangerous gaslighting. Then after the January 6th committee concluded their final session, your response was, but Liz Cheney, and you spelt it wrong, lost by a record 40 points. That was your first response. Then you responded 2 hours after that and wrote, the fake charges made by the highly partisan unselect committee of January 6th have already been submitted, prosecuted, and tried in the form of the impeachment hoax number 2. Then he put it all in caps, won convincingly. Double jeopardy anyone. It's not what double jeopardy even is. First off, you haven't been charged with a crime yet. You will be charged with a crime soon, but an impeachment where you were protected by your buddies, the Republicans in the Senate, who are okay with insurrection, who call the insurrectionists political prisoners. They're perfectly fine with insurrections taking place. But that's the one reason that you weren't impeached. You were saved in the Senate by senators who are sympathetic to this, who want to overturn our democracy. Frankly, it's what makes this different than Watergate. To have a major political party in the United States of America say, I'm talking about the Republicans, say, you know what, we're for the cult. We're cool with QAnon stuff now. We're cool with overthrowing our democracy. We're fine with that. You know what he says, terminate the Constitution. Well, if we can win, terminate that document. Terminate the Constitution, I guess. It's shocking, but we have a major political party that is okay with that right now in the Republican Party. They don't care about democracy. It's not double jeopardy. You're not charged with the crime yet. You will be charged with a crime, but that's special counsel Jack Smith's role. And Jack Smith will likely be indicting you in 2023. You go on to say, by the way, I'm not showing you all of the posts he made, because if I showed you all of the posts Donald Trump made, this will go on literally forever. But this is what he's thinking about right now. This is what he's doing right now. This is what Donald Trump says as well. He goes, the people understand that the Democratic Bureau of Investigation, the DBI, it's all part of a string, the DBI are out to keep me from running for president because they know I'll win, and that this whole business of prosecuting me is just like impeachment was, a partisan attempt to sideline me and the Republican Party. For what are you talking about? That's not even a coherent sentence, but it shouldn't surprise you. Then to refer to the FBI as the Democratic Bureau of Investigation, the DBI, that wants to keep you out for running for president. Look, you committed a number of crimes. You are losing in the polls to DeSantis. You are a loser. Honestly, I would prefer you be the Republican nominee to go against Biden because you're going to lose so horribly. But my desire to see you lose so horribly again is tempered by the fact that I much more prefer you to be criminally prosecuted for just trying to destroy our country. I want to make sure that you know that no one is above the law. I want to make sure that message is heard loud and clear. And you engage in the most vicious attempt to destroy our democracy and our history. You are the biggest traitor since our founding, period, full stop. Then you go on because you have nothing better to do. You wrote statement on January 6th committee. And then you go on to say, These folks don't get it that when they come after me, people who love freedom rally around me. It strengthens me. What doesn't kill me makes me stronger. Americans know that I pushed for 20,000 troops to prevent violence on January 6th. And then I went on television and told everybody to go home. Think of it. The radical left Democrats, communists, spied on my campaign, lied to FISA court, lied to Congress, allowed an invasion of our country on the southern border, embarrassed us in Afghanistan, gave away our energy independence, killed us on job-losing regulations, wouldn't use the 10,000 plus soldiers I recommended for January 6th, refused to look into election fraud, the reason for January 6th, rigged and stole the 2020 election, allowed ballot stuffing, FBI, Facebook, Twitter, and Biden crime. Again, not a coherent sentence or statement at all, but when you delve into what he's actually saying right here, you see where he's scared. You see him forming his criminal defense right now, knowing that he's likely going to be indicted by special counsel Jack Smith. So now his claim, Americans know that I pushed for 20,000 troops, but then he goes, wouldn't, in the later part, wouldn't use the 10,000 plus soldiers I recommended. So he doesn't even have the numbers right. There's internal inconsistency in a 4-sentence run-on grammar-plagued statement that he puts out. But he didn't put out for the troops. In fact, if you recall, the statement that actually went out was from the acting Secretary of Defense, who basically told the National Guard to stand down and to not engage in any efforts to try to block weapons or insurrection-like conduct on January 6th. The exact opposite of what's being said here. But again, he's trying to formulate what his gaslighting lie is going to be here. And again, this is the great work of the January 6th committee and the DOJ. These people have all been interviewed and under oath, not what they say on Fox, not what they say in their right-wing MAGA echo chamber, not what they say on these social media platforms. We know that there are lies after lies after lies here. Then when he goes on and he goes, think about it. The radical lefts spied on my campaign, allowed an invasion of our country, embarrassed us in Afghanistan. You want to talk about Afghanistan? Your Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, when you cut a deal with the Taliban against the Afghan government at the time, releasing 5,000 Taliban terrorists for nothing in return. When the Afghan government objected to it, you said that you would stop giving any aid to the Afghan government at all unless they supported this prison release without getting anything in return from the Taliban. You literally let out the 5,000 people who then swiftly, those 5,000 people, then took over Afghanistan for nothing in return at all. And then you did it intentionally at a time to leave that to Biden, who had to fix your mess. You lie about the 10,000 plus soldiers, and then you go refuse to look into election fraud, the reason for January 6th. So then you seem to endorse January 6th based on your phony lies and conspiracy theories about election fraud, the reason for January 6th. This statement is all over the place. Then you just go, Biden crime, Biden crime. I mean, you can't get more ridiculous than that. And then again, you have ... and then you go, continued from the previous truth. And I'm the one that the corrupt partisan unselect committee goes after, a 2-tiered justice system. And by the way, whatever happened with the massive number of crimes committed by Joe and Hunter Biden, they're right there, documented and 100% certain. Also, where is the prosecutor from Delaware? What happened to him? Is he friends with the Ukrainian prosecutor who didn't prosecute after Biden held up the billion-dollar payments to Ukraine? Then he puts in caps, I did nothing wrong. Puts in caps, I did nothing wrong. Again, no offense to petulant babies, but this is petulant baby behavior. I did nothing wrong. Every statement, every one of these conspiracies, everything about this is just so humiliating and embarrassing to our nation. And it is so humiliating and embarrassing that you still have 20 or 30 million people who support this trash, who support this traitor trash right here. Absolutely disgusting. He posts this video that says, hold them accountable, referring to the radical left scoundrels like Adam Shifty Schiff, who are purposefully destroying our country. Soon we won't have a USA anymore. All he does is just talk crap about the country. Same thing that he did in the rallies. He offers no alternative, offers no positive, but just disparages and defames our nation to help Vladimir Putin. period. Then you have Elise Stefanik, who goes, my statement on lame duck Speaker Nancy Pelosi's sham unconstitutional January 6th committee. I mean, Elise Stefanik is one of the most pathetic individuals in the world. She ran as a moderate, and now she's just a Trump kiss-ass conspiracy theorist like Jim Jordan and like Ted Cruz and all these other weird and bizarre lackeys. She goes, House Democrats and vicious never-Trumpers who were run out of Congress by the American people continue to desperately and unconstitutionally target President Trump and Republicans. The American people see through this partisan charade, which is why they fired Nancy Pelosi once and for all. The Republican majority will hold Democrats accountable for their illegitimate abuse of power. So one of the things that Republicans want to focus on is they want to have a January 6th committee to make criminal prosecutions against the January 6th committee. You heard that right. They're pro-insurrection. They support the insurrection, so much so that the Republican Party, and Elise Stefanik is a leader of the Republican Party. She's the number 2 leader of the Republican Party. So literally runs of the House of Representatives, literally runs the House of Representatives other than Kevin McCarthy. Her view is that she wants to hold a committee that will investigate and refer prosecutions of the Congress members who investigated January 6th. That's how pathetic these Republicans are. That's how sick and disturbed and deranged and dangerous and disgusting people like Elise Stefanik and these Republicans are. How anti-American, how much they hate this country. And we need to call out what this is very specifically and not sugarcoat any of these statements. That's not what we do here at the MeidasTouch Network. We call it out together. We call it out strong, and we are not going to be bullied. We are not going to be gaslit. We are going to stand up together, and we are going to fight back against these traitors, against these MAGA Republican traitors and fascists. Stand together, stand strong, stand for democracy. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit the subscribe button. We're on our way to 1 million subscribers thanks to your support. In addition to hitting the subscribe button, check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch, patreon.com/MeidasTouch, patreon.com/MeidasTouch.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.